So I did this presentation probably about a month ago at a Nurses Week Tucson Nurses Week Foundation conference. And they had asked me to do something with movement, related to movement. So this is where this all started. And I thought, well, it's an easy way to share with my colleagues here. But I see this as, movement is one modality that we can use in our practices. Movement is one modality we can use in our lives to help ourselves. And so I thought I would just share a little bit about what I discovered as I did some research about nurses in particular, and how movement can support some of the things that they're experiencing, or that we are experiencing in truth. So I'm just going to share my screen. Oops, wrong thing. And I made a little slideshow. So this is a participatory little workshop. So I'm going to be coming back and forth in showing slides, and then coming back into the screen as well. So I see this as using movement for continued self-compassion and self-love. So everybody's going to pick up their hand weights, and we're going to go crazy, and we're going to all go into some real serious workout, right? No, I'm just kidding. We're going to use this time for just using movement as a tool for helping us reinvigorate and restore and allow self-compassion and self-love to come into our everyday practice, not just every so often, so that we can use movement whenever we can in our lives, wherever we are. So I'd love to start off with a sun breathing. So can you see me, or are you? Yeah, okay. I see some of you nodding. I'm going to see if I can pull you guys all onto the side so I can see you too. Yeah, there you are. Hi. I see you all now. And move you up and move you around. I'm moving you all around. It's kind of fun. So you can do this particular one either seated or standing. It's really whatever you're feeling you would like to explore and try. And I just thought we would start with this one because it's such a simple one. It's an easy one to do. If anyone is a yoga practitioner, this will be very familiar. And even if you're not, this will still be really familiar. So wherever you would like to be, standing or seated. So all we're going to do is rest our hands on our thighs wherever we are, just a gentle, relaxed thigh on the side or on top of your thighs, wherever you are. And just taking a breath in, lifting your arms over your head. As your hands touch, just bring them together, either clasped or in a prayer, and then hold. And then as you exhale, come all the way down and bring your hands back to your thighs. So it'll just be an inhale, clasp and hold, and then exhale, hands to thighs and hold. And try that a few of your own breaths, and just continuously explore this breathing as you expand. Inhale, pause, exhale, and pause, and in your own time. You can soften your eyes. You can keep them open, whatever's up for you. Do this for about 3 more of your own breaths. Once you've completed your 3rd breath, just allow your hands to settle onto your thighs. And noticing how you are. And then slowly making your way back to the presentation, back to your room. So what did you notice? And what do you notice in yourself? You're welcome to type into the chat or just speak. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it really helped me reground and kind of let go.
So we're regrounding and letting go. And Holly typed into the chat a release of tension and frustration.
Yeah. I noticed that when I exhaled, it was easier to lift my arms up.
Mm-hmm.
It was just nice to get some movement in my shoulders, and did a road trip. So it was yesterday. So it was nice to kind of stretch out a little bit.
Yes, 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 yes. So maybe some of these feelings came in. We all are, of course, going to experience feelings, emotions, sensations differently. And really what this presentation about is tapping into this aspect of actually sensing and feeling different emotions. Because there are times in our lives when we may not feel as very connected to ourselves, to our emotions, to our authenticity, and we can tend to mask emotion, especially in the practice of being a nurse at the bedside or wherever we are. And once I started learning about what I'm going to talk about here with the emotional burden, I realized that emotional burden is actually absolutely everywhere in our society. So this presentation is for you if you happen to be a nurse and you're giving a report and you've just finished your shift and you didn't get to complete everything and you feel really anxious and upset about that because you have to leave all the things for the next nurse and how that makes you feel. But yet you want to give report in a positive light. This is for you if you happen to be caring for someone at home and then you have to go into a work environment and be the happy person or be the person who is very focused. This is for you if you happen to have cared for a person in one room and their family is agitated with you and they're angry at you. And now you have to go into the next patient's room and they are having chemotherapy and they're terrified of having chemotherapy. This is for you if you happen to be in education or an educator, or maybe you're a manager and you just received news that you have to cut people who work for you. And you have to go and walk into an employee meeting and you can't tell anybody yet. And this is for you if you happen to have coded a patient who is just about as old as this little girl, and now you're in her room, but the other girl didn't make it. And this is for you if you just received a phone call from your from your best friend's mom, who just told you that your best friend was in a car crash and you can't leave work. This is emotional labor. And so really where emotional labor comes from is about the 1980s, Arlie Russell Hochschild started to do some studies, particularly on bankers. And what she realized, bankers, people in stores, people at restaurants shift their emotion based on what they're doing. So for example, you can imagine a restaurant person, a server coming to your table, and they were just berated at one table. Now they have to come to your table, and now they have to be all happy-go-lucky. And this emotion, even though, so her emotion on the exterior can be something completely different than what's on the interior. And although Arlie Russell Hochschild did all this research on bankers and people who work in stores, I just couldn't help but think about, well, what about healthcare? I mean, we're doing that every day. We are faced with these emotions and covering things up every day. So really what emotional labor means is just managing your feelings in order to present a work appropriate emotion. So work appropriate. So trying to be the professional, trying to mask emotions, maybe out of protection sometimes, or just in general, because we want to be in the kind of masking what we're feeling because we're being told that all the time. Hey, make sure we get good employee satisfaction. Make sure our patient satisfaction results are high. And how do we do that? Oh, we smile. We make sure that we're showing that we're happy at work, even though all of these other things are going on. And, but what happens when you can't turn the frown upside down because you are really becoming disconnected to your true emotions when you're in this emotional burden cycle. And really what happens is you become an actor. And I feel like as a nurse, I have become the best actor in the world because I am not always showing the true emotion that I may feel inside. And what happens over time is there's this mismatch between the emotions you feel on the inside and the emotions that you have to express on the outside to conform to whatever's going on in your workplace. And of course, this leads to emotional resource depletion. And of course, this leads to burnout because we're not accessing and truly able to express the true feelings. I have a lot of thoughts about where this comes from, right? When you think back to your own experience in your nursing school, I mean, I remember my nursing school very distinctly over 20 some odd years ago. And I remember one nurse in particular, one professor in particular, told me that I was too joyful at the bedside. So I was very impressionable and I stopped being so joyful for a very long time. I didn't understand. Right? I was just trying to conform to whatever this professor was wanting to tell me to do. So have any of you experienced anything like that in your careers? And you're welcome to pop off and just share if you'd like to.
Well, I can speak up from a perspective of being a nurse aide on the psych unit. And I had a supervisor, the nurse that was usually working with me, and she was extremely happy all the time. And she had what you're talking about. She just had a natural joy. And it made a difference on the unit when she was there. So it's kind of the opposite of what you're saying. Nobody told her not to do it. She was just being her authentic self. And I think some people did feel that she was over the top. And there were times when I wasn't comfortable with it. Personally, because I wasn't around that kind of a family that was over exuberant, but she really was authentic in her expression, and we all loved her anyway, so.
Thanks, Jerry.
Sure.
I had a similar experience in nursing school. I think that I have kind of like a nervous laugh, and I don't know, I was hanging an antibiotic and must have laughed or something when I dropped a cap on the floor from the tubing, and my instructor was like, you can't do that. The patient's gonna think that you don't know what you're doing if you're doing that. And she's like, but the patient didn't seem to mind because I'd been with them all day, so I guess they might have picked up on that already.
Has anyone found that they've had experiences related to actually using emotional burden, like having these mismatches between the emotions you feel on the inside and the emotions you are expressing on the outside?
Yes, I want to think back to my nursing education. I was in pediatrics and I passed the exam. And I remember my instructor told me to laugh out loud because I had passed. She was so happy for me. And I didn't really have much ability to express laughter. I was a single mother. I was just getting through it, you know. And I remember I tried to laugh and I just had this ha 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 kind of a response that was, to me, it was like the first time I had even laughed about anything in a while. So when I think back, I remember her being really happy for me, and I wasn't really good at expressing happiness. So I don't think that it was, I wasn't aware of it at the time of how like focused and deliberate I was being in my life at that time. Not joyful.
I think of historically, when we see pictures of, say, Florence Nightingale or any of the leaders back in the day, of how stoic they always looked, right? And how serious they always were in the photos that we see. And I think of like historically, you know, I often heard, don't cry with your patients. Yeah, don't show too much emotion with your patients. You know, I heard a lot of that. I don't know if any of you experienced anything like that. I see some of you nodding, so you did. Yeah, but and then how does that affect us as we're trying to practice in real life, right? As we're moving through. And then also when I say practicing, how does this then morph into real life, like our home life or family life, because those things can be compartmentalized, yes. However, a lot of that can, of course, move into our personal life as well. So this is just, you know, us putting on an emotion whenever we need it, right? So exterior, oh, I need to be happy. So I'll put on my happy face. I need to look focused. So I'll put on that face. So we become really big actors in emotion. And some of us become over the top. And so we're very, very expressive. And then some of us become the opposite, apathetic, where we're not expressive at all. And we don't really care, or we don't know how to express emotion because we have lost touch with what it really feels like to feel the emotions that we're facing on a daily basis. And of course, that ends up with fuses being blown, with inability to really connect with our true, authentic ways of being and doing, and becoming disconnected. And when we become disconnected, that of course can lead to burnout, but unhappiness, apathy, overwhelm, all the things. We forget to take care of ourselves, all of that. And the beauty, of course, with nurse coaching is that we have a lot of tools that we've recognized through our time in either learning about nurse coaching or recognizing that we can actually use the heart of nursing and the science of nursing together to really focus on taking care of ourselves, which then of course leads to taking care of our patients and clients and communities as best we can. So now we're coming into the fun part of what we're going to do. Now, movement is just one modality, right? We have a lot of modalities that we can use to help us. So I'm just going to explore with you some movement modalities because I love movement so much. So here's me. This is my kindergarten graduation. I was a sweet little child. Of course, we all are at this time. I had no qualms with expressing my emotion, doing whatever I wanted to do. So playful, so exuberant, so childlike, right? Yeah. And just coincidentally, I just did my Reiki 2 training the other last couple weekends ago, and my inner child has been hiding lately. So I thought it was apropos to pull her out right here. So you recognize that we all have the inner child in us still. And so allowing that to come out I graduated with my master's about 5 years ago, and I thought it would be fun to pose the same way. So, over 20 years of nursing practice and work with a lot of people through my nurse coaching practice as well. I do what's called a healing movement project, where we honor body, mind, and spirit in a way that looks at different healing modalities and movement modalities put together and comes together as a group. What I started noticing, though, in the group is that people were really disconnected, not just nurses, but everybody in general, very disconnected to how we feel in our body, to how we feel in our spirit, to how we feel in our mind, and mismatched with how we're expressing that. And what I discovered is that movement is such a powerful modality to help people reconnect, connect the wires back together so that we can actually experience and feel the things that we really are feeling. We are emotional beings, so connecting the dots back to that. I just popped this slide up here just to show that actually do you have some credibility to talk about this stuff? Yeah, I'm a group fitness instructor, a functional aging institute, active aging practitioner. Of course, I have my board certification in nurse coaching. I volunteer for the Alzheimer's Association, and I volunteer now here in the senior community. But lately, I've been focusing a lot of my work on nurses because nurses need so much of our care and love and support. And I don't really put up this slide to show you my credibility. It was more really like I've dedicated my entire life to using healing modalities, but I didn't know for the longest time when I was a nurse in the intensive care unit that we had all of these other sides to us. I was a personal trainer group fitness instructor since the age of 17. And I did this along my career in nursing. So I did the two, I coupled it. So I did my workouts, I ate well, I ran, I worked out, I taught my classes. I thought I was taking care of myself, and I had no clue that I was not taking care of my complete self. I had no idea that I was not taking care of everything in my being. I did not know that I was burning out. I took the sickest patients all the time. Everybody asked me to do everything. I was on 50 committees. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't know. I didn't understand. No one talked to me about it. No one talked about boundaries. No one talked about burnout when I was at the bedside. And I find that crazy now that we're in this nurse coaching world where we're always talking about it and trying to heal ourselves. So I'm in a constant process of continuing to remind myself that I must heal. And I continue to heal. And so I'm really blessed to be here with you all because I love this. I read this study. Movement is such a powerful thing. How do we recognize emotion from movement? Well, there's actually specific motor components that help us recognize each emotion. So executing or doing certain body movements evoke their associated feelings. And when you actually look at other people doing an emotional body movement and they show expression from that or they are just doing the body movement, you can also feel the emotion. I thought, wow, this is fascinating, right? And even when you start to imagine other people potentially doing movement that's joyful or a movement that is sad or a movement that is exuberant or a movement that is angry, we feel those associated emotions. So this is very powerful to understand because we can recognize that even if we're not going to do the movement and we just watch people, we can actually get some benefit from feeling those emotions and reconnecting the dots and the pathways that help us feel again. So really cool. And it really showed in this presentation I did, it was in person, because there's always going to be those people in the group that don't want to do something, right? They just want to watch and they just want to be like they're a late adapter. There's always the early adapters. They're always the ones that's gung-ho, but there were ones that they didn't want to participate. And so we were doing the movements and we were all around them in the room. There was about 200 people. And the people, I watched them start, they were like, flat. And then as they watched people doing the different things, they started to like really be interested and smile on occasion. And whatever emotion was going on, whatever was being expressed by the people around them. So very powerful to just know that. And then potentially just when you notice yourself at a concert and, maybe you're just in the background, but you may notice yourself swaying and you're getting that benefit of being in the emotion. So I just love that. So here's our recap just real quick. So we understand what we're talking about, emotional labor. We express different feelings on the outside compared to what's on the inside because we want to try to remain professional. And of course, this leads to an emotional mismatch. Our emotional resources dwindle. We lose our authentic way of expressing ourselves, and we eventually lose ourselves and could potentially burn out. And doing movement helps you connect back to your feelings, and even imagining or looking at others doing movement can also help. I love this meme. So true. Me, every time I leave a room after being super kind and bubbly, right? Because it felt fake. And so we go out and we're like, God, that just did not feel right. And so how are we connecting the dots and replacing these feelings, replacing the mismatches and trying to align more with our authentic beings? All right, so we ready to try some stuff? Okay. So we've already done one thing, which is sun breathing. Beautiful way. You can do that for like 30 seconds and you'll already, we felt that, those emotions, right? We felt those connections of feeling calm, losing frustration, returning to ourselves, feeling good just in general, to get the shoulders moving, all of that. So all of that goodness coming in. So let's, I'll invite us to, if you can stand, you can stand. If you can't stand, you can still do all these. I see some of you are in a car, like Lindsay's in a car, so she won't be able to do much of this. And I'm going to back up. I'm going to adjust my screen a little bit. So this one is called the gentle sway. I see some of you already doing it. Some of you who may practice Tai Chi may just already go into this movement. But if you've never tried it before, just put your feet about hip distance apart. Soften your knees so you're grounded into the earth. And then you can see all we're doing is starting to sway. So allow your hips to turn a little bit, but most of the movement is actually coming from your waist. Your knees are still soft and your knees try to tend to point forward. Now notice your arms as they come across you. You actually want to touch your body. Yeah. And as you come into this movement, maybe you even extend your arms coming up to your heart or your shoulder. And I'll just allow, oh, look at Lindsay's going out. She got out of her car. I love it. And just allow your body to sway. And I'm just going to be quiet for a moment. Now, as you're gently doing this, gentle sway, begin to notice any sensations in your body. Any physical sensations. Tap into your breath. And now slow your movement down a little bit. The next time you wrap, just stop your body and hug yourself. Gentle hug. And a gentle hug at the other direction. And then allow your arms to land easy. I'm coming back to you. What do you notice now? Renee,
I really like the movement and just feeling the looseness in my joints and the flow.
Beautiful.
Sleepy. I feel sleepy.
Does anyone feel any tingling in their hands or arms?
I felt a little tingly in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did too.
The energy.
Shoulders. I have tingling in my
Shoulders.
shoulders.
Tingling in your shoulders. Mm-hmm. Now, how about your mind? What are you noticing there?
Empty. Empty.
Empty.
Peaceful.
Oh. Beautiful. So the gentle sway is an energy mover. So it does allow you to get energy moving around in your body. And even just, we did that for probably about 30 seconds or so. So it was very short. And noticing you can stand up from your desk at any point. You could do this standing in line at the grocery store, anything. And people actually, I've done it before. What is that lady doing? Come try it with me. But noticing how this can allow you to bring energy in and also move energy around, and then bring the shift in emotion as well, and potentially moving from a high stress environment to an empty feeling environment. Yeah. All right. Now this one is very easy. All you do is put your hands on your heart. And as you're doing that, keep your eyes open and just look at someone else as they're doing it. So hands on heart. And Ellen, I'm watching you. I'm looking at you. And now softly close your eyes. Just feel and slowly coming back to place the space again. And then if you notice someone with their hands on their heart, what are you noticing about yourself as you watch them with your hands, with their hands on their heart? What does it feel? Like what sensations do you feel potentially or notice?
Yeah, I felt the softness and warmth and almost like a feeling of connection.
Beautiful. I felt sincerity. I was watching Ellen. Sincerity and trust. And then what are you noticing as you tap into yourself with hands on heart?
yeah, I was able to bring that towards myself, and it kind of felt like a hug almost too. It was lovely.
Yeah, I was just gonna say just a very loving feeling towards myself and you guys.
Beautiful. And how easy is it? Got two hands? Just coming to self, coming to self. And I have used this lately of looking at myself in the mirror with my hands on my heart to almost feel like, oh, to notice what I'm noticing about, not about myself, but just what this physical sensation does for self. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a very sacred moment.
Mm.
You know,
They-
this denotes a moment in time when we're just really still and present, and it is contagious. All of the things that you're talking about are contagions. When we watch other people move or feel or express themselves, there are mirror neurons, right, that we have that connect with our own motor, like you were talking about, our motor complex. And that is so helpful for people that are anxious. If we can take a moment for ourselves, it's contagious and it will help them to calm down without even saying anything. We don't have to hear the story behind the anxiety. It's more of how can we just be with this person? And perhaps I'm starting to get anxious because they are, but this reminds me that, you know, I'm okay and I can be here with you. Yeah.
Beautiful reminders. Yes. I like that, Judy. It's contagion.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
That was Dr.
Love it.
Traeger's words, right? In the Traeger approach. And he said that emotion was, well, the feeling of the Traeger is contagious. And you have to catch it from somebody that has it.
There you go. I love that. I love it. Okay. The power pose. Have you heard of Amy Cuddy? She's also a sociologist. She's got like the #2 TED Talk. Like 35 million people have watched this TED Talk on power poses. And basically, a power pose is a positioning of your body that you can just jump into, and it elicits feelings of empowerment, feelings of power in your body. So, for example, this photo, this is a power pose. Hands overhead is a power pose. And I don't know if you've seen Olympics when they win, everybody's always doing that, right? Or I imagine, I just got a flashback to Saturday Night Live. You know, she does. Her hands are-
Mary Catherine Gallagher.
Yes, I just had a flashback to that. But Amy Cuddy says there's 3 power poses that we can try. So the first one is the one that's on the screen. So just try that with me for a minute. Feet apart a little bit and then reaching up. And if you take your eye gaze up a little bit too, that is helpful. And just take 3 deep breaths in and out. And then relax your arms, relax your legs. The second pose that she studied was just hands on hips in the Wonder Woman kind of pose.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I love Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I love it too. And just feeling your power as it grounds into the earth too. The earth giving you power, you giving the earth power. And then the final pose can be done seated or standing. And it's really just bringing, oh, sorry, I moved. It's bringing your hands behind your head. And you could do this seated with your feet on the table. And that's a really good one too. Oh, that feels good in my shoulders.
Very supportive.
It is supportive. I feel that too. And you can imagine trying this seated too, and maybe midday, you're like, I need a power pose. And you don't even have to get up. Sometimes you can just put that right into your computer routine. Oh, gee. Oh, I see some chat. I didn't even pay attention. Sorry about that. Love the power poses. I just did one to make myself feel good. And my favorite, which one, Holly, was that the hands on hips Wonder Woman pose? Especially when I was younger. I love that. Thank you.
Don't forget the protection one, you know.
Oh, right. Protection. There you go.
Used to be talk to the hand, now it's like, look at my fists.
I know, Judy. I love it. That's so awesome. All right, we got one more thing to explore, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do it or not, but I'm going to try, because I have to play music for it. So I brought my trusty speaker instead. So we're going to try it. So Marvin Gaye originally wrote this song, "How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You," and James Taylor redid it in 1975. We're actually going to use James Taylor's version, but before we get there, I want to read the poem to you. Oh, there's background interference. Yeah. Is it me? Do you hear that? Or is it, oh, no, it's gone. Is it gone? It's gone. Okay. Okay. So the poem is, I'm going to read it. And before I read it, I want you to start thinking of the song a little bit differently, of the words a little bit differently. So instead of James Taylor writing the song for someone else, imagine that you wrote this song. You didn't write it for anyone else. Instead, you wrote this song for yourself. Okay, so you wrote this song for yourself. Here we go. I'm going to read it. I needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were. I needed someone to understand my ups and downs, and there you were, with sweet love and devotion, deeply touching my emotion. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Yes, I do. How sweet it is to be loved by you. Feels so fine. How sweet it is to be loved by you. I close my eyes at night, wondering where would I be without you in my life. Everything I did was just a bore. Everywhere I went, it seems I'd been there before. But you brighten up for me all of my days with a love so sweet in so many ways. I want to stop and thank you, baby. Oh, yes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. It's like sugar sometimes. How sweet it is to be loved by you. You were better to me than I was to myself. For me, there's you and there ain't nobody else. I want to stop and thank you, baby. I just want to stop. Right? How sweet it is to be loved by you. Okay, so it's like jelly, baby. Yeah. So when you start, when I play the music, so instead of thinking he wrote this song for anybody else, you're thinking you wrote this song and you're singing to yourself, loving yourself. So there's going to be some freestyle movement here. We're just going to move our bodies and dance away. And can you hear it?
It's cutting in and out.
Cutting in and out. Okay, well, you'll have, if you can't hear it, you'll have to listen to it later.
We have to sing it to ourselves.
There you stand up and down. There you with love was
Deeply touching my emotion.
Stop.
Thank you, baby.
I just don't wanna stop.
Thank you, baby. Yes, I really is.
To be loved by you.
Feel so fine.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Can't even hear it. Sing it.
You can't hear it?
Oh, you should sing it for us.
Oh, okay. Everything I did was such a bore. Everywhere I went seems I've been there before. But you brighten up for me all of my days. With a love so sweet, so many ways I want to stop. Thank you, baby. I just want to stop. Thank you, baby. Oh, yeah. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Just like
Sugar sometimes. How sweet it is to be loved by you.
You're better to me than I was to myself.
All right, guys, I won't torture you anymore.
Thank you, baby.
Thank you for
Stop.
Take it, Judy. And thank you, baby.
Oh, man, I love that song.
Well, today, hopefully you can find it and play it and think of the song just for yourself. And actually, I've been doing this a lot with any song and thinking, gosh, I could just sing this song and it brings me self-love, me self-love. And this is just such an easy way to do that.
So good.
Oh, all right. So let's tie things up. Oh, we should say, we notice how you are when you do try that, to see, notice what happens for you, especially a favorite song, one of your faves. Yeah. All right. And that's about all I got for you today. So any questions about emotional burden or any movement practices or any thoughts? How about that? We'll just open up the reins.
Hey, Nicole, I have a question. So what if you're like really trying to reinvigorate yourself or get in touch with like some of the more negative feelings? You know, I struggle more with like acknowledging and just honoring some of those emotions that aren't quite so happy. You know, in movement, I mean, typically movement sometimes brings me joy and happiness, but like if I'm really frustrated or angry or like feeling like, you know, I'm not being listened to or heard or, you know, things of that nature, I'm not really sure what to do with that other than like, you know, screaming or, you know, like those kinds of things. So do you have any ideas?
To help yourself connect to the emotion,
Yeah.
I mean, I think just what you were just saying, connecting to them, acknowledging them, like those are real feelings. I often think of times when I would ignore all that, right? And just try to make myself feel better and just not even acknowledge the feeling. And instead now what you're saying is like, yeah, I'm recognizing them. Like I actually have those feelings too. And let's throw it out to the group. What do you guys think?
I think one of the things that I found really helpful in moving some of that negative or those difficult emotions, I don't really want to label them as negative because I think we have a lot to learn from those things too, is to literally like shake it out. If you kind of tuck your head down towards your chin and just stand up though, and let your whole body just, shake down words. I think it can be really helpful in moving some of those emotions, and, you can do it gently or you can do it with a little more vigor and really get some of those emotions kind of moving again so you can move on from it too.
Robert Sapolsky wrote a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, which talks about, in the animal world, the reason the animals don't take on stress is because they do exactly what Renee just said. They shake it off. If a dog and a dog, come together, two dogs, and they have this, traumatic event, you can see them pretty quickly right after that. They'll just go their separate ways, but then they'll stop and they'll just shake everything. And I think we have to acknowledge, like Nicole was saying, we have to acknowledge them, and they are helpful for us to have. It's survival. When we get upset, there's something going on that we need to address, but we don't want it to become a stressful event and raise our cortisol over time and make us ill. So we do have to learn how to let go of it. Journaling is probably something that's not very moving, but letting it go that way is another way. But I think shaking is really helpful to lower down your stress response. It might not happen in the moment if you're working. You might have to do it later in the evening and recall that event and then shake it off, because we're human and we have the memory of it in our bodies. Animals don't do that. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Here's a good one.
And
And there's also another one where you these little things where you rub those together. It's a meridian. So an energetic meridian.
That's nice.
The other thing I learned the other day at a yoga class, somebody said to me, when you get ego, I was like, oh yeah, I know ego. He said, put your finger over your thumb. I've tried that a few times. When you kind of get in your own head sometimes.
That's good.
I like that one too. Yeah.
You could do it under the dashboard when you're driving.
Instead of no.
Or if you're at a meeting, and you just can't stand it, and you're trying to stay awake and you're angry about whatever's going on, you could do that little knuckle thing. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. These are great questions. I really honor that question, Holly, because you're right. It's easy to tap into not always easy to tap into like a positive emotion. And we're told, I think, oh, don't show anger, don't show sadness, don't show all of that. But we do need to acknowledge those emotions because they're part of who we really are. Yeah. And thanks, Renee, for the shake it off. Shake it off. Shake it off.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time and your beautiful energies today. And yeah, have a good one.
Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, thank you. This was fabulous. It was nice to connect with you all.
Yeah, you too.
Cool.
This was fantastic.
Yay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.